So there's non-attachment, because, and that's common to hear, right? Like, just don't be attached. Just don't be attached. Be detached. Here's the thing, though. The nature of the self is to be attached. No, but when I'm completely enlightened, completely self-realized, then I'll be detached. Nope. Detachment's impossible. Our nature is to be attached. Our choice is to be attached to spirit or matter. And so there's a verse that Prabhupada quotes a lot in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yene Ravindaksha Vimukti Maninas Payasta Bhava Ravishuddha Buddhaya. Aviva Krichena Pram Padam Tata Patanti Adodhan Richa Yushmananagram. So it says that even those through different spiritual paths, if they become detached from matter, but if they're not positively attached to the real banyan tree, means to Krishna and to serving Krishna with love, then they'll come back down to the material realm and get involved with material romance, because they're not attached to spiritual romance and material politics and material welfare activities and material social life. So Krishna says it's Yayati Putimat Sattvam Shrimad Urjitam Evava Tata Eva Avagachat Tvam Ekam Senasitoja. Krishna says, talking about the material creation, know that all beautiful, mighty, and glorious creations in this world, they spring from but a spark of my splendor. So this is a beautiful, powerful, amazing world. And in comparison with Krishna's spiritual energy, the spiritual trees, the spiritual rivers. Look at the river. The spiritual rivers. This is actually very dull in comparison. Spiritual relation, very dull in comparison. So Prabhupada's saying, yeah, the material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. So this is about going to the reality. And part of that is realizing padam yadi padam notesha. There's danger at every step in this world. Whatever we've created, we're so proud of this body or this mind or this. It's all going to, the car is going to blow up. So that's not meant to get us depressed. It's meant to get like, yeah, let me go for the real tree. Let me go for the real tree. Okay. Devotional service to Sri Krishna. Then that opens up a whole world of luminescent color and transcendental form, not form that's full of misery and temporary and transcendental relationships, form and association. Okay. So to not be satisfied with it, to be detached, and to be detached, because the powerful process to get detached from matter is to intensively get attached to serving Krishna. Then naturally, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jani Yatya Shubhairagyam Gyanam Chayata Hetukam. Then naturally, yes, then naturally we lose our taste for pale, dull, material, so-called enjoyments like that. All right, and so, so then we get into, all right, so service to Krishna, that's the way to get to the real banyan tree. One thing is we're just like, no, I'm still trying to enjoy this reflected tree. And we said, no, I see, this is all empty. And this is misery, this is frustration, this is torment, and this is embarrassing. And we're embarrassed by our material desires. All right, so yeah, I'm finished with this. All right, but what are we going to replace it with? Our nature is to be active, our nature is to love, our nature is to serve. Are we just going to direct that to nothing or the great white light? It's not going to be satisfying. Okay, so then the process is bhakti. It's a very world-embracing process. We get to use the temporary body in the service of the eternal body of the soul towards real liberation. Muktiri vanyata rupam sarupena vivastiti. Real liberation is we rejuvenating our original spiritual form in service to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Okay. So then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sattam Kityantamam Yatantas Tradridavrata Namasyantas Chamam Bhaktya Nityayuktu Pasate. So there's many, many forms of devotional service. And the foundational forms are hearing and chanting. Shrinvatam Sakta Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vidyantastoya Bhajani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Super Soul in the heart of all living entities, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, personally cleanses the heart from material desire for the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which in themselves are virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So hearing and chanting, hearing and chanting, but that's the foundation of all the other categories of services, deity worship and meditation on Krishna. So Prabhupada gave us a whole program to hear and chant about Krishna. And we're encouraged to embrace it 100%, to fully develop our dormant love for Sri Krishna. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Saji Kabunoi Shravanadi Shuddhachite Karye Udai. It says love of Krishna is eternally situated in the hearts of all living entities. And it's not something artificial. That's why even whatever, we're from America or Europe or like that. This is all very foreign compared to our upbringing at the same time. It's very foreign. It's very strange. But then how come this Bhagavad Gita and this chanting here, it feels like coming home? Because this is actually we read that this morning before japa. This Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's the original consciousness of the soul. It's not something artificial. It feels like coming home for the soul. Yeah, for the virtual reality character that we've concocted, then this is foreign like that. But this is like the actual, the actual person playing on it. Let's wake up to real life, real nature, real relationships, real fun. So, so that dormant love of Krishna is awakened by hearing and chanting about Krishna through Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, through Bhagavad Gita, through association such as this. And then, but Krishna says, Satsam Kirtanam. So what that says, Satsam means always. Kirtan means kirtan. So Ma means me. So basically, Krishna is saying, because of the process to transform the attachment from the reflected tree to the real tree is always do kirtan about me. Always do kirtan. Kirtan means really to describe, to glorify. So Krishna said, always be glorifying me. That's the process. That's kirtiyantumam. Yatan tascha dritavata. Drita, I can imagine like an English word like determination probably comes from the Sanskrit drita. Drita vrata means with a vow of determination. So if we're like, well, when I feel the inspiration, I'll chant a round of japa. Or if I'm, maybe I'll do some reading. When I feel, because spiritual life means follow my feelings. Well, the proof that I'm not serious about Krishna consciousness is this stuff. The fact that I got a material body means I've taken a stand, like I don't want Krishna to be in the center. I want David Wolf to be the center. This is the proof. Like I could try to hide it and conceal it, but it's like showing, okay, material body means that. Which means most of my feelings are conditioned for David Wolf's God project, not loving devotional service to Krishna. So that's why, like, sure, if we're pure devotees, then our feelings and our sentiments will naturally be aligned with loving Krishna. Well, that's not the case. So that's why Krishna says, he's talking to Arjuna, who represents the conditioned soul, represents us, conditioned in material life, conditioned to accept something as true, that's not true, that I am this body. Yeah, it's not true. That's conditioned, right? So it means I'm not realizing the reality. I'm eternal spirit, so Jivara Supar Krishnara Nichidas Krishnara Tatasta Shakti Beta Beta Purana. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul. So I'm conditioned to something false, to reflect it. So that's why Krishna says, Yatanta Shakti Davrata. Yeah, chant, do kirtan for me. Like if we're reading Bhagavad Gita, that's kirtan. Prabhupada was in one of his centers, and it was like a relatively small center temple. And in the morning, he would dictate his translations and purports to his books. And during the day, he would have some follower like typing, old-fashioned typing, typewriter. And it would make noise. The typewriter would make noise, and they were worried that the Prabhupada would be disturbed, in his room because it was loud. So they asked Prabhupada, is that typing disturbing for you? And Prabhupada said, I hear that typing is kirtan, because you're typing the purports to Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that's kirtan. So any vibration that's in service to Krishna, that's, of course, there's also what we conventionally think of kirtan with kartals, singing Hare Krishna, and we're done again in the morning. So with a vow. So if we just chant Hare Krishna, think of Krishna when we feel, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful use of human life. And what we're hearing here is that if we want like each day to make substantial progress out of attachment from the reflected tree to attachment to the real tree, then Krishna is recommending Dritavrata, a vow, commitment. Commitment means, like, whether I feel like it or not, I'm going to show my love for Krishna by fulfilling this vow. It is said, there's a Spanish author, and he has a quote, something to the effect of, freedom means the capacity. Freedom means the capacity to commit to my highest good. Freedom's the capacity to commit to my highest good. And so, because sometimes like this commitment or discipline can be seen as like, well, it's not spiritual. To actually come to a steady, we make that distinction between states of consciousness and stages of consciousness. So sure, maybe like during a kirtan, so we're chanting japa, we experience a state of like joy, connection with Krishna, like that. Maybe even ecstasy, maybe. And that's there to inspire us to be more and more rigorous, to practice sadhana. Sadhana means to discipline ourselves to follow Krishna's program of devotional service, so that more and more we raise our stage of consciousness. Otherwise, because commitments, it's not about follow rules and regulations, but it's like Krishna is giving us. Look, here's a process to actually transform your heart from a hardened heart, selfish, full of greed and lust and envy, attached to the illusion, to actual soft-hearted, loving, devotional service to me. For a conditioned soul, here's a process. And he's inviting us, not forcing. He's inviting us for our own good. Follow this process. From wherever you're at, neha vikramo nashoste pratyavaya na vijyate svapamapya siddhamasya trayate matobaya. From wherever you're at, if you're doing 1%, okay, meet yourself where you're at, increase to 2%. And the actual Back to Godhead program, like actually Goloka Vrindavan, that's like 100%. Like no more material desire. I just want to serve Krishna, and we serve the systems Krishna set up. We use this term a lot, current link. So Krishna describes in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upitekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. He says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively from him and render service unto the spiritual master. Such a self-realized soul can reveal the truth to you because he's seen the truth. So what Krishna is saying? Krishna is saying, I want you to approach me through my pure devotee. Krishna says, one who sees himself as my devotee is not my devotee. One who sees himself as the devotee of my devotee, the servant of my son, he's my devotee. So my current link to the Prabhupada, that's Srila Prabhupada. That's Srila Prabhupada. And it could be like, we say, well, we don't have a direct relationship with Krishna. We do. Prabhupada gives the analogy, and he calls it the mystery of the Parampara. Parampara means disciplic succession. That he said, okay, let Prabhupada use the analogy. Like, let's say if I say, I want a direct relationship with the pages of this book. I'm not going to go through glasses. Honestly, I'm not acting here. Like, I can't read anything. Okay. But I want to. So now with the glasses, we could say in a sentence, the glasses are in the way, they're in between my eyes and the book. I mean, that's true in a sense. At the same time, because they're finely crafted lenses, they enhance my direct relationship with the Prim. So similarly, and it could seem ironic, by going through Srila Prabhupada, our current link to the Parampara, that enhances our direct loving relationship with Sri Krishna. And yeah, actually, it's interesting because the Bhagavad Gita is sometimes called the ABCs. In the first page of the introduction, Prabhupada talks in esoteric terms. Hello, Kara. Welcome, Kara. He talks about different types of relationship with Krishna. Friendship, conjugal, parental. There's, again, every type of relationship that exists in this world exists in Krishna's world, the Loka Vrindavan in its pure original form, the real truth. So yeah, the soul, we do have our varieties of relationship with Krishna. I would say it's healthy, can be humbly healthy to consider right now, my main relationship with Krishna is through his energy called Maya, illusion, right? I'm attracted to Krishna's energy called Maya, which is another term for Kali. And so that's my current relationship. So to transform my relationship to attachment to Krishna's Maya, to attachment to consciously serving Krishna, let me follow Krishna by following his pure devotee, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And then in that way, because I've seen this sometimes, it's just me and Krishna, I don't need. So it's, again, like a more extended analogy we can say is like the telescope. It's the same principle, right? Like, I want a direct relationship with the stars in the sky. Okay, but actually, by looking through a telescope with those finely crafted lenses, in a sense, those lenses are between my eye and the star. But the more finely crafted lenses between my eye and the star, the more direct is my experience of the sight of the star. So the finely crafted lenses, that represents the disciplic succession. And again, our current living alive link, and that's an important point. Prabhupada talks often, basically there are two types of association. Bapu, which means physical, and Vani. Sometimes he calls that association through following the instruction. So we follow Prabhupada's instruction, which I'm happy to say we're doing. We're discussing Bhagavad Gita. We follow Prabhupada's instruction, and then we associate with Guru, our spiritual teacher. And he says, of the types of association, Bapu is not essential. Bani is essential. Bhaktinamanda led this morning. Shri Guru Charana Padma. There's a line there. Chakudana Dilaye. Janme Janme Prabhu Divya Ganri De Prokashita. He opens our eyes with transcendental knowing. he fills our heart with transcendental. So Ride is heart, Dibya is divine, Gyan is realized knowledge, transformational, transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada's fully present in his Murti form, in his instructions. And that's how, so following his guidance, then we get to experience transforming our attachment from the reflected tree to the real banyan tree. Real banyan tree, if we take it out of metaphor, means attachment to Krishna and Krishna's flute and relation with Krishna and service to Krishna. So I'll close there. I'll read the verse again. Chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita as it is. The chapter is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdvamulam Madasakam Asvatam Prahor Abhyayam Chandam Siyasi Parnani Yastam Veda Saveda Vid. The Blessed Lord said, there's a banyan tree, which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Hare Krishna. Thanks for listening to Bhagavad Gita. Thanks for your presence. I welcome at this time if anyone would like to share any comments or realizations or ask any questions. Amanda.
I really liked when you mentioned that it's kind of impossible to let go of desires completely, because that's our innate nature is to have desires.
Yeah.
Because that's something I hear a lot, like in the yoga community.
Sure.
It's like, oh yeah, let go of your desires, but it's like easier said than done. Like we're surrounded by these desires. So I've personally experienced the power of like transforming your desires from like material desires to wanting to serve Krishna, like to chanting japa. Like it's something that I can physically do that takes my attention away from the reflection to the actual truth. So I really like that point that you did.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. I hear this is something about Krishna consciousness you really appreciate.
Yeah.
And it's something that we don't really get anywhere else, because maybe in most yoga centers, just get rid of desires. As you said, it's difficult to get rid of all desires. No, it's not difficult. It's impossible. Completely 100% impossible. And so we'll always be frustrated. And it can make one, okay, let me just desire to not desire. No, but then I'm still desiring. Because like you can go like layers in there. Whereas here, it's just let me transmit our natures to desire, and that's not a bad thing. And so here, and this is unique in the bhakti, it's transforming the quality of our desire, and that's real spiritual life. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Whatever we desire, we end up there. So I'm wondering where is the soul ending up in a desire to not desire?
Sounds like death.
So like,
Like nothing.
yeah, it sounds terrible. Like, okay, so you have the desire. That's how I was thinking. You have the desire to not have desire, and everything is based on desire, and we create our reality through desire, because those yogis, they also use that.
Yeah.
You know, that's about the clear attention, power of attention. So it kind of doesn't make any sense. Something that the doesn't do, because you create your life based on your intention and desire.
Yeah.
And the goal is to not desire. Okay, so if your desire to not desire, then what's your intention, or where you will end up? Where is that desire?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. And and it gets because okay, so you do yoga or something like that, and of course, the yoga we're not saying yoga is nonsense. The source of yoga is described in Bhagavad Gita. There are so many paths, and they all lead to desiring to serve Krishna, and that's the bliss of the soul. But then someone's following whatever path. Yeah, what's the goal of your path? What's the goal? And then often it's just like,
I don't know.
I haven't really thought about that. But maybe like, because it can become like, well, to feel more peaceful, less stressful. But then really the desire is to enjoy the world.
I'll stop.
Yeah. To stop suffering, to enjoy with more peace. And it might work because, detach and there's sattva there. And at the same time, the root of material desire is not pulled. It is not pulled. And so, so we're going to desire material or spiritually. Prabhupada gives the analogy of like, let's say there's an object in space, and floating in space that represents the Brahma Jyoti. Okay, no desire, but it can't stay there. The gravitational pull of some planet is going to attract the object. Prabhupada gives that analogy, very scientific. The gravity. So it can't just float in space forever. The gravitational pull of some planet is going to attract it. So even if the realized yogi who's transcending material desire, but if there's not that attraction to Krishna's planet, then some material planet's going to attract us again. Because the Brahma Jyoti, there's happiness in the sense of there's the relief of distress. There's the relief of distress of the material miseries that our material desires get us in so much trouble and torment. We all experience them. So there's a relief of distress, but ultimately it's boring, right? Because there's no active relationship like we just sung in Jaya Radha Madhava. Relationship between Radha and Krishna. Yamuna Tira Vanachar. Hare Krishna Bhaktidev. And Krishna wandering on the banks of the Yamuna and relating with the trees and his flute and the cowherd boy. It says there's no real banyan tree. We're going to go back to the reflection. And so what's the purpose and goal of your yoga practice? See where that conversation goes.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the attachment to be detached.
Okay.
So that attachment is rooted in material desire too.
Yeah.
The attachment, and it's still an attachment.
Yeah.
The attachment to be detached.
Yeah.
And that can also torpedo.
Torpedo. Yeah.
That philosophy.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, the attachment to be detached, if they really analyze it, it's a material attachment.
Yeah.
It's rooted in the material life.
Yes.
It cannot be rooted anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, whereas bhakti is rooted in the eternal spiritual realm. Right, the attachment to be detached. Because ultimately it's like, by attachment I'm suffering, but I want to be happy. So I'm attached to be detached. No, the goal is still my material happiness.
It's still an attachment.
It's still a material attachment. Yeah, but Prabhupada makes that point. Thank you, Lauren. Any other? Yes, parampara.
Did the analogy of the banyan tree.
Yeah,
Hearing that for years.
yeah,
I think perhaps I was very dull for the first several years. I never really got it for a while. I fully know. Oh no, I understand it. I understand the banyan tree. And then but today I feel like I got a little bit more realization. It's like all these metaphors that Prabhupada uses, it's like there's so many.
yeah,
They're so expansive. Like
Yes.
it's not just something, oh yeah, I get it now. I feel like that's not just with this metaphor, but many other metaphors that get like a deeper layer of understanding and realization, like later on, like, oh wow, yeah. And so like today, because in the purport, he's speaking about how the roots are growing up.
yes,
Like we're above where like Lord Brahma is living in like the topmost heavenly planet of the material world.
yes,
So the roots are growing up towards the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And And so that gave me like some more understanding about like the structure.
Yeah.
Like this, yeah, the reason the roots are growing up is because that's the source. The source is the spiritual world. And that there's there's no source here.
Yeah.
And then also like you were saying, like imagine ourselves upside down. So that also gives like this world is just like upside down.
Yeah.
This whole world is just everything's flipped. And I understood before like the perverted reflection, like that really resonated with me. I understood that like it's like a dirty mirror, kind
Yeah.
of perverted, like warped, like a fun house.
Sure.
Fun house mirror, very
Yeah.
kind of warped.
Warped, yeah.
But I was understanding like that. But then today, like understanding like just completely flipped upside down, where
Yeah.
what we think is the source and the roots are actually not.
Yeah.
That's the branches, the little nothing, and the real source is so anyway, I'm appreciating that kind of turned on its head, kind of
Yeah. What we think will bring us the most happiness brings us the most misery. It's all upside down.
yeah.
For those who weren't here at the beginning, at the start of the class, I quoted Prabhupada in one of his talks on this particular verse, Banyan Tree. He says, imagine if someone held you by your legs with your head down. Would that be comfortable? Would you like that? No. So he said, the whole material world's like that. Very uncomfortable. I appreciate you sharing, Prabhupada. And that, well, first of all, I'm reminded of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He has a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. Because he just in really the first 3 verses, there's just like this inconceivably brilliant metaphor. And like Krishna's metaphors, Prabhupada's metaphors, just like they get richer and richer. So you maybe heard this, going back practically 10 years or something, but not here today. You're getting a fuller understanding of what it means and what the different parts of it mean. Thanks for sharing.
Your comments remind me of verse in the Bible. The exact translation, I'm not sure. But what is nighttime for the introspective stage is daytime for conditioned soul, and what is daytime for the introspective stage is nighttime for the conditioned soul. It's all upside down. Like I was sharing yesterday with Amanda about my brother. And when my brother is 66, so it's not a youth, he's not 16. And when you think of my lifestyle of no alcohol, no drug, no party, no like that, I think I'm dead. Like for him, he look at me like I'm a dead person. I'm a sad, dead person.
Yeah.
And what he does is just he's still partying. He's still partying.
Right.
Now it's with a Brazilian woman, whatever. He's just still partying. And I look at his life and I say, oh wow, this must be so painful.
I would also like upside down. Like I'm not drinking my family and stuff, but I feel kind of like a kid. That's like adults drink and party, have fun like that. It's like adult, like I'm like a child, like not drinking, and I'm like, well, it's really the more adult and mature thing to do is to drink wine and get sloshed. That's also a topsy-turvy thing, like that it feels like they're looking at it's like, well, that's like a kid thing to do, to like not drink, but how are you gonna have fun? Whereas it's really like I'm looking at them like, well, that's kind of like a teenager thing to do, to like,
And then there is like Garuda Govinda, she will look at the plagues in Bhagavad Gita. So the plague 35 is graphic way to understand that banyan tree.
Mm.
And to like it's so profound. Like there is so many words and so many in that plate that really help us understand, including the Viraj River.
Mm.
And if you look at the Viraj River, it's a desire. So really the whole process of Bhakti Yoga is to change our desire from material desire to spiritual desire. And in this plate, there is so many details about self-gratification and then the leaves of the Vedas. And then there's so many little details.
Mm.
We can really lose ourselves in that,
Yeah.
reflection and lose ourselves in this plate too. And it's really feel entangled. Just looking at it, I feel entangled just looking at it.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's that play particularly depicts this exact verse.
Mhm.
Thanks for that.
We can lose ourselves there.
And
And it
that's-
is entangling.
That's the
It
point.
just goes everywhere. It goes everywhere. And if we try to, okay, there's a branch just above me, like to pull it. And then we pull that branch and that branch entangle us in some kind of vines. And the vines comes and
Yeah.
maybe there's some twigs and thorns and it just doesn't happen.
No, so we can see like in that play. So in this purport, as Prabhupada does like tens of thousands of times, he describes our entanglement, and then he describes the way out. And he describes the entanglement, the goal, and the process to get disentangled and get to the goal. Because again, there's many places where there's insight about the entanglement. But they can't get unentangled until unless we get the higher taste of bhakti, we'll just trade. We'll trade vodka for heroin, or we'll trade this partner for that partner, or like that. We'll keep getting entangled. We'll trade this yoga center for that, for that practice over there. So until we get the higher taste that comes from bhakti, that eternal substantial taste with the real banyan tree. So I'm feeling appreciation for Srila Prabhupada. He describes the entanglement perfectly, representing Sri Krishna, and the process to get unentangled, not just get unentangled, and the process to get spiritually attached with such bliss that we really lose attachment for the entanglement.
Without separating endeavor also. Because so much of the Bhagavad Gita describe all the process that are meant
Yeah.
to detach
Yes.
on another desire. And every time it's described, and even Arjuna, when he responds, says very difficult to practice
Yeah.
and impossible in Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
So that's also very important when the Prabhupada ponder
Yes.
again and again. It's like even to be successful to come to a place of detachment.
Yeah.
It's practically impossible in Kali Yuga.
Oh yeah.
It was possible in other range, but
And even then it would take 60,000 years.
exactly.
If I had 60,000 years.
Yeah.
I
Spare
probably
time.
waste 59,000.
Yes.
What's that thing about becoming materially exhausted?
Till exhausted.
Kunti.
It's necessary because you're talking about getting the higher taste. So I think, well, I just choose to engage in bhakti yoga practices. I'll start to develop a higher taste because, and like look through the world and look at the material, my material life through a different lens, like that, and then. But I thought there was something about like one must become materially exhausted before that. What was the?
Just last Wednesday in Homestead, Florida, Bhakti and Amanda gave a class on that.
When she was coming from the-
I actually thought about that when I read this line. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this truth thoroughly through analytical study.
Yeah.
And when I thought of analytical study, I thought, okay, material exhaustion. Like you're analytically studying this reflection through what you were describing, like trying to get the fruits of the tree and feeling this exhaustion with that, process. So yeah, I think material exhaustion is part of that.
Thanks for that.
Kind of squeeze the juice out of
Yeah.
lower taste.
Queen Kunti, she refers to Krishna by one of his names, Akinchana Gochara. So she says, Janne Shvaya Shrutashubhu, Edamana Madakuman, Naibrat Yabita Tumbai, Tvam Akinchana Gochara. Tvam is like the French to you. You are the shelter for the materially exhausted. So that's a name for Krishna. Akinchana Gochara, the shelter for the materially exhausted. And she says, like those who have like aristocratic birth in a special family, those who are particularly wealthy, those who have like, fine education, those who are physically beautiful and handsome. She said that doesn't have to be, but that can be a real disadvantage. It can be a real disadvantage for the process, for the ultimate goal of like feelingly calling out to Krishna, feelingly calling out. But when one is materially exhausted, so it's thanks for bringing that up about today. Another thing about material opulence, birth, attractiveness, education, material wealth, they don't have to be disadvantages, because some, just to give balanced perspective, someone could have all those material. I've got this great house and I'm famous and I got lots of money in the bank and this and that, and lots of degrees. And then maybe, honestly, this all leaves me empty. I'm not going to strive for more of this. Let me serve Krishna. And on the other hand, someone could be, poverty stricken and have just like all the disadvantages of life and didn't get an education. And they could, instead of turning to true spiritual life, they can be, why does he have that? I want that house in that neighborhood. And then the whole life is driven by greed and envy. But still, the general tendency is, if in this, especially in this yuga, people have material opulence, then they just like, why should I intensely want to serve God? I'm doing great, So it's both. It's two tracks: cultivating higher taste, and that's where this, we say that a lot. Safaja, right? Experience your experience. If we experience our experience, that'll like, if we experience our experience, rather than drink the wine and the vodka and do all those things that Mark goes into even at 66 years old, if we, because all material life is about escaping experiencing our experience. And if we're experiencing the pain of our experience in material life, experiencing the shame, experiencing the pain, the fear, like that'll move us to material exhaustion. So we want to experience that experience. It's not like a new age thing, feel your feelings. No, that'll move us to material exhaustion and to greater urgency. Let me get the higher taste. Let me chant Hare Krishna. Let me serve. So it's both tracks. With the higher taste, we lose the taste for the material stuff. And by experiencing our experience in the material experience, then we deepen our urgency. I want to get out of this place. Let me cultivate the higher taste. So it goes hand in hand. Thanks for that.
And it's also not binary. What I'm naming in your statements could be binary. Like I need to be, completely materially exhausted before I can come to Krishna. But it's never like that. You're here because you're materially exhausted. You started chanting Hare Krishna because a part of you was materially exhausted, a part of you was suffering and like looking like for answer, looking for truth, looking for the absolute truth. And you may not be 100% materially exhausted. I may not be 100% materially exhausted. But to start the process that need to be there to some degree. Yeah, to some degree, there's a sense that
Yeah,
I don't believe in you all that a bigger bank account is going to make me happy. You know, smoking more weeds is going to be the solution. Having more partners is going to be the solution. Like, even so I'm still doing it, there is a part that's kind of is exhausted and satiated.
yeah, it's not all this or all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in spiritual life usually it's not finite.
Yeah, and they, many, if not most, in fact, everyone, maybe they come with some seriousness to Prabhupada's movement, Krishna consciousness. Many sort of had like even in high school, or even when I was 7 years old, there was like some sense like, yeah, somehow I don't quite fit. Like I feel like I was kind of like playing a game, but I never quite bought into it. Like, many who come to Krishna consciousness, like, yeah, this whole the party scene, I did it, but like I can never embrace it. The social life in high school, like that. So many who embrace devotional service, like, sometimes from an early age, they had this. This is exhausting. This is hollow. So some even as a child.
Yeah, actually, I can relate to that. Growing up, I was like a natural aversion to meat eating.
Yeah.
I just always thought meat eating
Yeah.
was gross, and it's like we have these family pets and these other animals are so close to the animals we're eating.
You had a sense of
It's
that
always
from
kind of
yeah.
confusing.
Yeah.
Didn't have like taste, like kind of put me
Yeah.
off, but I would do it. It was just a social thing to do, and then I would try to be vegetarian in my like 20s. It was like it was messy. And so I tell people that about that now. I just recently realized I always had this aversion, but then for the last maybe 10 years, completely committing to vegetarian. I tell people the only way I've been able to keep up that vow of vegetarian is spiritual realization, practice, and knowledge.
Yeah.
Earlier it was about health. I thought vegetarian must be more healthy.
Right.
Meat, there's stuff out there about about the most healthy.
Yeah.
People red meat, only limit your amount, stuff like that. But I did it for health, and then it was bumpy and it was sloppy.
Yeah, because we're doing it for health. It's like, okay, if once I have this meat, it's not going to ruin my health. Then it's easy to cheat if it's not for deeper reasons.
The deeper spiritual principle is understanding karma, and wanting to be in nonviolence, and all the other reasons, saving the planet, and it's better for the earth. And I was cheating,
Right.
But like personal responsibility. Okay, like I'm committed 100%.
Thanks for sharing that, Dr. Deb. Thank you. Bhagavad Gita Ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all.